The seeds of Harry's danger have not stopped yet. King Charles's secret health battle was exposed. Harry revealed something in his memoir Spare that has gone largely unnoticed, yet it reveals a worrying pattern for the royals. Hello, and a very warm welcome back to Kate Middleton and the Queen News Channel. There are many things that have brought down British kings and queens over the centuries, like maybe stray arrows, being stabbed on the toilet, falling off of a cliff, falling off of a horse, gangrene, bipolar disorder, a cannonball accident, smallpox. I mean, you name it, they have probably suffered it. But they're So what is it? Is there some sort of curse following around the royal family? Do they need to stick a health warning on the inside of the St. Edward's crown? Well, we know Queen Elizabeth II lived to a ripe old age, and she was pretty healthy her entire life, too. But could it be that the new King Charles III is not quite as healthy as Buckingham Palace image makers want us to believe? See, Harry included a little throwaway detail in his book Spare that made it seem like Buckingham Palace hasn't been entirely honest about exactly how fit the king may be. So Harry wrote about spending time at Balmoral. Of course, that is the king's private Scottish residence. It sits on 50,000 acres and has 50 bedrooms. And he talked about trying to find his way around the Victorian property. So Harry said that if you open the wrong door, maybe you're going to burst in on his father while his valet is helping him dress. Or you might mess up and walk in as he was busy doing his headstands. Apparently, they were prescribed by his physio, and these were the only effective remedy for the constant pain in King Charles's neck and back. Reportedly, the pain is mostly due to old polo injuries. So maybe Harry was accidentally revealing something that we're really not supposed to know about, because there's really never been any suggestion before that Charles may be in constant pain for all the decades that he was dealing with hundreds of engagements per year, serving as patron of more than 420 organizations. And he was also responsible for the Prince's Trust, which has raised hundreds of millions of dollars and helped so many young people throughout the UK and the Commonwealth. Now, obviously, the question here is if we did not know about this situation where King Charles is in constant pain, what other health problems is the royal suffering from that maybe we don't know about? And of course, this would not be the first time the world only found out long after the fact that Charles was, in fact, in much worse shape than anyone was letting on. For example, let's look at a polo accident involving Charles that happened in 2000. So he was playing on a team with Harry and his elder son, Prince William. So on that beautiful English summer day, Charles fell off his horse. And the UK press did report on it. Based on information provided by the palace at the time, they only said the Prince of Wales had been hurt and taken a tumble, and that he had been taken to a hospital. The impression that we got was that maybe he got a bump or a scratch or two, but nothing that an aspirin and a good night's sleep couldn't sort out. And then in 2006, Charles, William, and Harry all sat down for a TV interview, and he gave a very different account of that fall. He revealed just how serious things really were. During that interview, Charles said that he landed absolutely on my head and that the mishap completely felled me. And Charles said that Harry thought when I was lying on the ground, he thought, oh, Papa's just snoring. There I was, busily swallowing my tongue, quietly dying. Now, obviously, he was exaggerating a little bit, all in good humor. But still, this example just proves that sometimes there is a chasm between the economical particulars revealed by the firm and what the truth of the matter really is. And there are more examples of the palace avoiding the truth about various health matters within the royal family. Now, in 2020, it was only 5 months after the fact that we learned that Prince William had actually gotten COVID during the early days of the pandemic. And we can say the same for the very traumatic birth of Prince Edward and Sophie, Countess of Wessex's daughter, Lady Louise, back in 2004. It was touch and go for both mother and baby for a few hours. The Countess suffered from massive blood loss, and doctors were fighting to save both of them. But based on the statement that was released by the palace the next day, it just read Her Royal Highness, the Countess of Wessex, was safely delivered of a baby girl by emergency cesarean section. Her Royal Highness and her daughter are both stable. We never would have guessed just how close the Queen and Prince Philip came to losing their daughter in law and granddaughter. And there was also that mysterious incident back in 2009. So Buckingham Palace confirmed that the Queen had taken the very unusual step of canceling a state visit to an undisclosed nation because she and Philip allegedly had other commitments. Now, some were suggesting that this decision was connected with the fact that Prince Philip had just pulled out of 3 engagements in the month before. But the palace did not want to agree with that suggestion. They wanted us to believe that maybe the Queen and Philip just stayed because there was a Morse rerun on. And then later on in Prince Philip's life, there was a question mark over his health and his recurrent hospitalizations, but typically all of that information came with statements that could serve as a masterclass in being vague. The phrases precautionary measure and in good spirits got hauled out very regularly. It was all so repetitive, it's like they had some kind of template and they would just change the date. Prince Philip's final hospitalization took place 2 months before he passed away in 2021, and even then, the palace was trying to claim that it was only as a precautionary measure and that he was in good spirits. There is no more obvious examples of the palace's very opaque approach to what it communicates about royal maladies than in the 12 months leading up to the death of Queen Elizabeth in September of last year. See, back in October of 2021, the firm tried to keep the fact that the Queen had spent a night in the hospital under wraps. It was for the first time in years, and they went so far as to continue flying the royal standard over Windsor Castle. They didn't want to lower it, but that would be what they were supposed to do when Her Majesty wasn't there. The truth only became obvious after the Sun did some digging, and they forced the palace to admit to the truth. And then all of us observed as Her late Majesty pulled out of event after event, and everyone was just hearing that she had episodic mobility issues. I mean, that's a phrase that did not come close to describing what she was really going through. It was only after she passed away that Giles Brandreth, he's the author of the excellent Elizabeth an Intimate Portrait, claimed that Her late Majesty had actually been battling myeloma. Now, of course, myeloma is a very painful form of bone marrow cancer, and it's rare too. Now, the palace hasn't said anything about it. They didn't deny it, but they didn't confirm it either. And I understand this is a very difficult situation. The duality of reigning lies in the notion that the sovereigns are both national symbols embedded in the national psyche, and they're also real human beings with worries, hopes, and the occasional sickness. Balancing the demands of being a monarch with the privacy of the individual is not something I would ever want to deal with. That is very challenging. But what is becoming incredibly obvious is that the way courtiers are handling communication around royal health is something they really need to work on. They've got to improve it. They've got to be less vague and a little more transparent. And they don't have a lot of time to figure all of this out. I mean, Charles is only 74 years old, and that means that if he lives as long as his mother did, he's going to be sitting on that throne until the year 2045. Now, in the next few decades, he and Camilla will age like other real humans with all the aches, the creaking knees, and the droopy bits that come with ever advancing years. So, what exactly is the palace planning to do? Now, this is an age when people expect a much higher degree of transparency. We want to know what's going on. We want openness from the people who are leading us. So, talking about the precautionary measure and in good spirits, all those press releases are not going to go over very well. But the good news here is that the Windsor genes usually come with some decent longevity and also a tendency towards being hale and hearty. We also need to remember that King Charles has given up polo, thank goodness. We wouldn't want him to fall down again, would we?